Welcome to Miniology. My name is Eric Newland, and today we will be introducing you to the driver of the fastest Mini in the world. The fastest Mini in the world race is designed to feature any racing derivative of the classic Mini. This includes a saloon, estate, pickup, van, Hornet, Marcos, Gem, GTM, Midas, and so on. The race is broken down into 4 specific classes. Class A, no engine restrictions. Aerodynamic additions are permitted. Class B, any engine under 1600 cc. Aerodynamic additions again are permitted. Class C, A-series engines over 1300 cc. No aerodynamic additions are permitted. And Class D, A-series engines under 1300 cc with no aerodynamic additions permitted. Wheels and tires are free to choose in all the 4 classes.
Today we're interviewing the fastest Mini in the world driver, Harvey Deeth. We also have Nigel with as well, his brother. The Deeths have been really involved within Mini racing, and we're going to learn a little bit more about this amazing family today. So welcome.
And welcome, Dave.
Yeah, and welcome, Nigel. Thank you for your time today.
Hello, everyone at Miniology.
Excellent. We also have Norm Nelson standing by here as well. So we're going to be just dive in today, learning a little bit more about you. So tell us a little bit about the Deeth family. How far does this racing go back with Minis?
Well, I think my father worked with a guy called Peter Baldwin in the 70s, and then he was very well known and still is very well known for racing Minis in the UK. And he used to race a special saloon Mini in various guises, and we used to get dragged along as youngsters to watch the racing, which we thoroughly enjoyed. And that sort of set the spark, I think, for Minis and racing. And when I was 15, I bought my first car, which surprisingly was a Mini for £15, and then couldn't drive until I was 17. So spent 2 years rebuilding it and trying to make it as fast as I could as my first car on the road. And that car I still have today. And that's the car that my brother Clive drove at the fastest Mini race at Brands Hatch at the Mini Festival. So it's a car I've owned for 40 odd years.
Wow, that's amazing. That's pretty sweet. There's a lot of people out there that have had the opportunity to have a first Mini as their first car, and I think that's pretty awesome. It was my first car as well, and we have some similarities where I was right around 15, 16 when I was able to procure my first car, and it was something that really grew on to me. But one thing I have not got around to has been racing. So other than on the streets where the police are still looking for me. So, yeah, but
well, you must be good because I haven't caught you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I can dodge around all them corners faster than their big, massive cars that they drive around out here. So excellent. And we have Nigel here as well. Nigel, how did you get involved with Minis?
So my involvement, as Harvey said, was very much been dragged around watching Minis, but Mini racing came a bit later to me in life. I always wanted a Mini Cooper S, but unfortunately that was out of my price bracket. So 4 years ago, I bought myself a Mini Cooper 1966, and I rebuilt that to quite a good spec with some nice little features on it, but naturally had the benefit of being able to dip into a rich source of insight and information with Harvey about what can make it go fast. So as well as you, Eric, the police haven't caught me yet too.
Nice. Good job for everyone here.
I'd like to just chime in if I could.
Yeah.
And Harvey, I think I have a similar path. It wasn't with a Mini though to begin with. It was an MG Midget. So my father would drive us down to Laguna Seca when we were young kids. He had an Austin Healey 3000, and my father and my older brother would sit in the front, and my younger brother and myself would sit in the rumble seat in the back. So we would leave about 3 o'clock in the morning and drive down for the races. And we were watching a friend of his that was racing at Laguna, and this is amateur Sports Car Club of America stuff. So I see a similarity there. Then also I got an MG Midget that had been totaled out, and another one that had a blown engine, and I was 15. And so my dad said, "You want a car? You know, we cleared an area in the back carport." And so for the next year or so, I built it in, and that became my street car, and then later as a race car. So
Yeah,
and then I raced it for several years.
Brilliant.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a family obsession. We were watching and noticed that there were some other deets out there as well. So I know you mentioned Clive. Can you talk about the other grouping of your family that was out there for the fastest mini race in the world?
Yeah, Clive is again another younger brother. He has been racing in the past with me. The car that he was driving, I say, it was my original road car that I've raced for 30 odd years, and we used to race it in a racing series that was endurance for a mini. It was an hour-long race, but you had to have 2 drivers and do a pit stop. And we were racing up against Heritage GT was the title, Aston Martins, some Camaros, Mustangs, E-Type Jaguars, Cobras, Sunbeam Tigers, MGs, and the Mini used to give a good count of itself. And we used to have great fun, but people used to be really amused to watch probably 2 of the biggest blokes doing driver changes in the smallest car.
I'd love to see some video of that. That's pretty awesome.
No, that was messy.
Very nice. Now, Harvey, you have a daughter, Alice. Can you speak to her? And her.
Yeah, Alice. She expressed an interest in racing, so we put her through her race license testing and got her a little bit of coaching on how to handle a car and how to go around the circuit. And so it was her first race, and so she was fairly nervous. She had a few incidents during her sort of testing and getting used to the car. Some of it was car related. Unfortunately, the car bit her a couple of times and she spun round. But she built a confidence, and she did really well at the weekend. So, she thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think she's on the phone tonight asking when the next race is going to be.
Oh, that's awesome. That's very cool. Nigel, can you tell us a little about the history of the fastest mini in the world race that was just put on? How long has that been going on? And I'd love to hear more about that.
Sure. So I reached out to Peter Baldwin, and it dates back to just over 20 years ago now. And he was one of the first guys contesting the title, along with the likes of Bill Solis, Martin Schultz, and it was quite a race where there were some really fantastic cars, the Jack Knight cars and the Maguire cars. So that's when it kind of originated, and it was a chance for cars in the super saloons and really fast minis that were almost developed by kind of motorsport enthusiasts that were really fast. And the original race back 20 years ago, which I could only manage to backdate to, there was visiting cars from Japan back then. So I suppose my ambition was to try and get some of the the cars back out on the track, and also to try and get some cars from across the world to come and compete. And hopefully the future of the race will go out to maybe if we can come to America, if we can go to Japan, and to actually see some of these cars, you know, around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to have you over here in the States. There's actually a race coming up here, Minis versus Mustangs, and that's going to be.
Wow.
You want to speak to that, Norm?
This is during a vintage racing event that'll be down at Laguna Seca in November, and they're going to run a special minis. It's all minis versus Mustangs. It's all 1960s vintage cars, and they will be running into the evening. So it'll be partially starting in the daylight and then run into the evening. It's an endurance race. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be our next big event that we're going to be dealing with. So we'll have our booth down there, and we're going to be trying to live stream that as well. It's the Goodwood racing people that are coming out to do the live stream, but we're talking to them now to see if we could arrange to do similar like what we did with you guys, and reach out to all the mini people around. And I think that might work out really well. I know that we do our Can-Am series, the Canadian American Mini Challenge, and that's been a series that's been going on. And I know a lot of the drivers would love to come out and give it a shot. I think Don Racine from Mini Mania has been over, and he did have Endolph Owens and Jonathan Lewis that came over in 2017, and they ran at Sonoma Raceway, and that was a fantastic event. I got a chance to meet them and rolled while they were there. But I know there's been a desire in the mini racing community to interchange and get back and forth across the pond, so to speak, and get involved with the European stuff and have them come over here as well.
Yeah, it's great camaraderie, and we love to have you. So it's always fun.
Yeah, we'd very much like to do it.
Excellent. I'd like to learn more about your team and your pit crew. How, those people behind you that make sure that you have that support. And obviously you did very well at the last race. So tell us about your team.
The main man with my car is my nephew, and his name is James. We call him Biffa, but he's James Biffa Bedford, and he's been racing with us for ever since he was sort of 12 or 13 years of age, and he has also raced with the British GT series, racing an SLR Mercedes. So he's a very capable pit guy now, although we take the credit for his apprenticeship. And he's kind enough to come back and support me. And he's also been involved with the V8 Mini from inception, so he knows the car well. And so he's always a very good pair of hands. And the other guys are very much sort of family, friends, and volunteers who come along. They're probably 70% interest. Well, I know maybe that's a bit different. It could be 30% interested in motor racing and 70% in the beer afterwards, or it's around that sort of ratio, I think. So you have to keep them motivated with beer rewards after the race.
Yeah, smart. And that's your key to success, it sounds like. So awesome.
Yeah, keep them happy.
Yeah. Your Mini, if I understand correctly, was built by Roll Center Racing. Is that correct?
Yeah, the car started life as built by KAD. You're probably aware of Kent Automotive Developments, and it was a space frame car, and it's one of the last cars they ever built as a space frame. And the owner blew up two 16-valve engines in it, and then wanted to sell it. It suited me because I wanted just a rolling shell. I competed in the fastest mini event in Mallory Park, and I think that was 25 years ago. And I was beaten by a guy called Pete Edwards in a space frame car with a 300 horsepower Vauxhall touring car engine, and with a 16-valve engine. And so at that meeting, I thought, well, the next big Mini Festival meeting will be the 50th anniversary of the Mini in 2009. So I set about, procuring and getting a car and building it to be fast and reliable. So I started with this rolling chassis, put it in the garage at home, pulled it apart, put it on a jig, and then tried to work out how much power I could physically squeeze in and what I could actually engineer into the front of this car. And I wanted a 300 horsepower. I wanted reliability. I wanted the drivetrain to be able to support it. So that really that ruled out conventional A series mini engine and gearbox, sadly, and probably all the CVs and the front drivetrain. So I just skirted the internet looking for, cheap or cheapish, reliable, usable power. And I came across the Radical engine, the RPE V8. Also, Radical at Peterborough are only 15 miles from where we live. So I got involved in some initial discussions with them. And yeah, the engine had the power. It had 380 horsepower, loads of power, very, very light, remarkably small. And I then researched and found an X-Track gearbox, a 6-speed sequential gearbox that would fit it. The gearbox was built for the World Touring Car Series. They ran much bigger wheels and they are limited to 8,500 RPM on their management system. So all the calculations worked out that the higher revving engine on 13-inch rims would match the gearbox ratios available and the final drive. So it would all do the job. That was probably the easy part. Yeah, the next bit was doing it, making it deliver. And for years, I'd sponsored Martin Schultz at Roll Centre with his various racing exploits, including Rovers. He raced in the British GT series with Tuscans and other cars.
So so Martin Schultz, very much almost a friend of the family, but Harvey was heavily involved with him in the sponsorship of his cars, and naturally went on to be very successful at Le Mans as well with his LMP.
Yeah, very nice.
I had a relationship with Martin Schultz at Roll Centre, and his racing developed from saloon cars nationally in the UK to GT cars in Europe. Then went on and he got involved in the Le Mans prototype series. And certainly in 2003, I think he was running third overall in amongst the works cars at Le Mans. So he's a very capable driver, and he built up an amazing team of engineers. And also, whatever they put their hand to always worked. There was never a no. It was, let's resolve the next problem. So it became very apparent that building this Mini was going to be a hell of a task. And he took over the challenge with a really capable engineer called Michael Talentine, who sadly passed away at 44 years of age with a heart attack. But he was, absolutely pivotal in building the car and making it work. And yes, it was built, and yes, it all worked. And it was some of the bits, if you've ever seen photographs of the car, some of the bits actually came out of the parts bin from the Le Mans cars. Some of the shock absorbers were actually off one of the prototypes. You must be familiar with the Mosler GT car in the States. Martin ran sort of Mosler Europe and was very successful with the Mosler car in Europe. And so the uprights that holding front bearings are a design variation of a Mosler. So they've got significant wheel bearings, and this car is built to do the job and not overstressing something from a standard Mini. So the car was built. Some guys adapted some bodywork to get some bodywork to fit it. We had to have wheels made for it, clearly. Some of the fiberglass work and bits and pieces in the car, and off the car went. First time I drove the car, I really wondered what I'd done. The car was close to absolutely undrivable. The first test was at Silverstone, and I thought I was just running out of courage driving the car. So I thought, get your head down and just push on, you know, just man up to this, get some balls. And that attitude didn't last very long. Steering arm broke, and I ran into the back of the pit wall at going into Cops at 120 mile an hour in backwards. It ripped all the rear suspension, collapsed the roll cage in the back of the car. I was then travelling backwards, having had this fairly significant impact, and I could remember seeing all the suspension overtaking me going backwards, and eventually ended up well off the track at Silverstone at Cots. Immediately thought, well, I know the fuel tank's in the back of the car. I need to get out of here quick. So I managed to leap out the car, and then hang on to the roof, try and recover from being winded, which wasn't very nice. And I was a bit battered and bruised. And the medical guys came over and wanted to take me to Northampton General Hospital. I had to decline that because my wife expected me to meet her and go shopping in Northampton. So the trip to the hospital was postponed. But I was fine, just battered. I think it took me a while to get over it. But we didn't give up with the car. Everyone said it would be undrivable. You can't have 380 horsepower in a Mini. You know, that's you can overpower front wheel drive. There was a lot of negativity. Even things like the steering goes through 6 helicopter joints because it has to circumnavigate the engine and the gearbox and get down to the rack at the front. So there are a lot of things in there which really were, you know, the limits of what we should have been doing. But we set out with a patient learning curve, and gradually did bits and pieces, and got the car better and better. In the early days, Martin helped drive it on a few occasions, and I think there's a video on YouTube of him testing the car around Donington, and you really get an idea of how bad the car was to drive. It was lighting the wheels up in every gear. You know, at 120 mile an hour, it wheel spin. It really was close to undrivable, but gradually with suspension changes and spring rates and bits and pieces, we've got the car into a much more drivable condition. So really, that's the history of the build.
Wow. And you did so well. You are the fastest Mini in the world driver. So congratulations on that. And
thank you very much.
When did you go through all this build? What time frame was this that you started building this vehicle?
I started in 2007. We just got the car so it could. We did the big Mini 50th anniversary race at Silverstone at the Silverstone Classic meeting, which was again a worldwide all-comers Mini race. And the car was, you know, drivable then, nowhere near developed, but it was drivable. It wasn't trying to kill you every time so much. And we qualified on pole, surprisingly, and with the car stuck in 6th gear, and it was still 12 seconds a lap quicker than any other Mini. So it was obvious the car had so much torque and drivability. And the other thing about the engine, it's got 40-hour service life. Unlike a lot of racing engines, it's not terribly highly stressed. It uses road cams, so motorbike-based road cams. So it's got a flat torque curve from 4.5 to 10,500 RPM. So it's a bit like an electric car or driving a gas turbine. You know, it's got so much pull and so much torque. But it's in its lowest form of tune for that engine. a trip to Radical and a fairly big bill, and it's 500 horsepower. If you ever wanted to get that crazy.
Wow. Are you thinking about getting that crazy?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how fast you guys are in America. I think we might have to have a look at this. We're getting worried if we come and see you guys.
Oh man. At this last race you had, was there any strategy you had going into this that helped you with your success?
Well, there's a guy turned up with a mini Quattro. It's an Audi S3 based car with a mini body shell on it, and he's got a Lamborghini cylinder head on it, and he claims 850 horsepower and 4-wheel drive and sequential gearbox and blah blah blah. So you've got to take that seriously. And he didn't qualify very well, nor did I, because it was wet and damp, and I only had some very, very old wet tyres, which are 12 years old. So in the race, I thought, well, if he can drive it and the car can do it, I'm going to have to get my head down. So I knew I was going to be quicker than the other guys. So I immediately got a fair rattle on the first few laps. And I thought, I'm just going to get some distance here. And with Brands being such a lovely tight circuit, you can actually see your competitors coming down the hill around the paddock as you come down from Druid. So I could soon see I was pulling away and judging distances, and the 850 horsepower car was doing nothing. So I got some distance and then just really maintained it and backed off and maintained it to preserve the tyres and bits for the second race. So the second race was again, I thought I didn't want to scream away and dominate, so I thought it would be just have a bit of fun and have a bit of racing with Bill Richards, who's a very capable driver in his very fast little mini Clubman, and so we had a bit of a race, and then unfortunately had a technical problem later on, so he prevented him finishing. But the second race was a bit more. Not so much of a surprise. I could just fairly dominate it, in a fairly easy manner, unfortunately.
Nice. And how many times have you taken the fastest Mini in the world?
I think this is the 4th time.
Wow.
Every time the car's been out, it's ticked the box.
That's awesome.
So
there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there, I believe, are wanting to are nipping at your heels. Then I could see how that 800 plus horsepower car is. Yeah, you have some.
Bring it on! Yeah, come on.
So Eric, it's worth mentioning another racer called Jim Lyons, because previously in previous races at Brands Hatch, he posted the fastest lap of 52 seconds in his mini Clubman, and he's a very good driver, and he's developing the car as we speak with a new engine. But he very much set the kind of like the benchmark of 52 seconds as the fastest lap. But he unfortunately retired as well. But he's definitely developing a very quick car to give Harvey a run for his money, hopefully next year. So it is good. But from memory, Harvey, what was your fastest lap just gone?
I did a 51-second lap, but I have done a 50-second lap in the car, and I'm sure with reasonably fresh tyres and the right attitude, I think the car will lap Brands Indy at under 50 seconds. Which is, fairly reasonable time.
Wow. How does that feel doing that fast of a lap in that car?
It feels quick. Yeah, it keeps you focused.
One of the things, Eric, because I had no appreciation of watching Harvey from the side, it always seems quite almost pedestrian, seeing cars go around a track. And but when you're in another car and you're racing and Harvey comes past you, you realise how fast he's going, at certain points of the circuit. But also a good thing to watch would be the in-car footage of Harvey in the race, which is available on YouTube, which is interesting. You get a real sense of actually how fast and he's going.
Wow, that's very impressive, man. Congratulations on that. Speaking to Brands Hatch, how do you feel about that track? Is it a safe track? How's it been for you?
It's a good track. It is a nice track. Yeah, there was a very unfortunate and sad incident recently when a marshal got killed, which is you can't mandate, you can't legislate to prevent accidents occurring, and there's always going to be something that will fall outside of the norm or what you perceive or no one's considered in a risk assessment. Can all motor racing be safer? Yes, it can. But we know Brands Indy is a fabulous club motor racing circuit. For spectators, they can see all the whole lap. You can watch all the race from many of the vantage points. You can see the complete lap. It's a great fun track. It's just south of London. It's always good with the crowds. It's a fab track.
Nice. How does your success in motor racing, how much of that would you say is based upon your geographic location of where you're located?
Possibly it's more related to the people I've met. And throughout life, the likes of the great name of Peter Baldwin, being sort of introduced to him, getting involved with Martin Schultz, sponsoring him and helping him. And then at the end of the day, I am an engineer, so cars are in my blood. So to put them all together and to build something, half the fun of driving is to build the car. And if people tell you can't do something, again, that normally makes you want to do it, doesn't it? So, a lot of that's been fun. And it's great. And you meet some fabulous people, as Nigel mentioned, the guys, Bill Richards and Jim Lyons with the turbocharged Mini. I mean, full credit to that guy. His car is actually a steel framed car. It's a mini body shell, with a fabulously, turbocharged A series engine running a BMW K series 16 valve cylinder head, and is now involved in the project, and they're producing this aluminium or aluminum, should I say, A series engine, and which I think will save them probably 30 or 40 kilos. So he's going to be coming back next year, with revenge written all over him. And so it's great fun. I mean, it gets you out of bed, doesn't it? And it keeps you amused. And
yeah,
racing's fun.
Oh, thank you. What is the future for the fastest Mini in the world race? What are we to expect leading up into 2022?
So that's a great question, Eric. So we took the race from what Roald has been doing with it in 2019. We had to pause because of COVID, and we really started to, with the kind sponsorship by Castrol Classic Oils, really invested getting the website done and building some structure around the race. And that was kind of rewarded with a really good grid. And unfortunately, the kind of restrictions didn't allow for people to visit from other countries, which would have boosted the grid even more. So the plan is actually, we want to go and race in America, Canada, and Japan. So we're reaching out to people now, say, this is what we've done. This is the blueprint of how we can actually put on a race and almost entertainment for kind of spectators, racers, and it's an inclusive race. It's good for everyone. So, in answer to your question, Eric, has it got a future? Most definitely. And do we want to speak to people about it? Most definitely. So let us know. We would love to come over.
Excellent, excellent. And how can someone reach out to you?
So, well, there's the website with our email address, and drop me an email, and yeah, we'll have a conversation. So just like we've set this up, Norm and yourself have been great. We're delighted to work with you. We very quickly put on the live streaming for you guys in Miniology, and the answer is yes. What do you want us to do, basically?
Excellent, excellent. We'll be conspiring over here shortly.
Yeah, and Eric, it'll be Eric, that's great, and it'll be great if you guys, you bring your Can-Am minis across. We'll have the Can-Am Anglo Challenge, the fastest mini in the world event, and also if you can produce, 10 competitors that are serious and they want to do it. That enables us to go to the race organisers with a bigger grid of cars and get more kudos, more inertia behind the race, which sucks in and brings nicer cars, faster cars. And it'll be great. And maybe we could get to the Silverstone Classic Festival, which is a huge race meeting, and lift the whole series up a gear.
Absolutely.
So come and join us.
All right. I like it. I'm ready. Very nice. Well, thank you for your time today. Speaking with our audience, follow us online at Miniology.
Eric, before we leave, can I do a shameless plug?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I like your t-shirt, Eric. But absolutely lovely. Don't forget, all the watchers, you can buy a Fastest Mini in the World t-shirt from our website.
All right.
We'll do that. Sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys, and I really appreciate it. And this was really awesome hat. We got to get that too. There you go. So I just want to say thanks, and it's so cool to see. I raced with my dad and my brothers, and my mother was the crew chief for my dad, and we ran endurance races together and all that stuff. So I feel at home talking to you guys because it's very similar. But you've reached a goal, and you're doing well with it. And Nigel, your organization and everything, we'd be happy to help in any way. I'd love to talk to Joe Huffaker. He's a friend of mine, and he runs the Huffaker Mini, and also Doug Peterson, who's like a 7-time national champion, and he drove the Fortec Mini. So Ward Barber's got a car that Endop drove out here in Sonoma, and there's a lot of cars. I don't know how they'd fit into the categories, but I think we'd find some that'll challenge in certain ones anyway. So,
Absolutely.
I'll try to push it as much as I can.
Brilliant. Well done, Norman.
Thank you guys. Stay in touch.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. If you happen to have missed the fastest mini in the world races, don't worry. Miniology has you covered. We will be re-airing the races over the next coming weeks. Be sure and follow Miniology at miniology.com.